Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports, and in today's video we're taking a closer look at the Denver Broncos and a team-specific 3-round mock draft on the channel. This is essentially what we do for all 32 NFL teams throughout the season. We also have a entire full first-round mock draft. We're planning on coming out with the second-round mock draft very soon as well, based off of that full first-round mock draft. So there's a lot of stuff on the channel for you to check out, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of our future content. Leave a like on today's video. And if you're also interested in winning a free jersey, we are in the middle of a jersey giveaway right now. That is, of course, a Justin Fields Chicago Bears jersey. You could win this jersey by simply commenting anything you want. Jersey giveaway. It could be something about the video today, anything you'd like to comment, and then also being subscribed to the channel and leaving a like. Those are the 3 criteria to get you entered for that jersey giveaway. So without further ado, now let's jump into it here with the Denver Broncos. Like I said, we're doing a 3-round mock draft, and I think this is the perfect time to do a 3-round mock draft because they just picked up 2 extra picks in the first 3 rounds. Of course, the second-round pick from the Los Angeles Rams and the third-round pick from the Los Angeles Rams in the trade of Von Miller. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about that Von Miller trade. Very, very crazy to see that go down during the actual trade deadline. I didn't expect anything to get done because I didn't think a team was going to be willing to spend a second and third round pick type of compensation for a rental on Von Miller. The Los Angeles Rams surprised me, went out and did it, but I love it for them. They've gotten so much better now with that acquisition. I think it made sense for Denver too. They really capitalized on his final year there in Denver and got really good compensation for him from the Los Angeles Rams. Here we are now at pick 16, and I think it's key looking at this team to look at a few different areas. Offensive tackle. I like what Denver's done with that offensive line over the last few years. They've added some very nice pieces into that offensive line. However, I just don't know if they're fully set, especially with some of the injuries they've had along the offensive line. They could consider one here, but given what they have on day 2 of the NFL draft, I am not fully locked in on that selection here, 16th overall. Then, of course, we could turn the table and look at the edge position. It has thinned out right in front of us. DeMarvin Leal goes 12th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. Then you look at George Karlaftis up here. Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau both go top 3, actually. There is a ton of edge talent. However, it's pretty much all off the board at this point at 16. I would consider maybe Adam Anderson. He's a slightly slimmer frame outside linebacker who could fit very well into Denver's style of defense there. However, I don't necessarily know if it gets the job done. You're also looking at some interior linebackers here who can make some sense. Devin Lloyd, who's been a real riser as of late. Also, Nakobe Dean, Christian Harris, 2 very athletic linebackers who can be real thumpers in the run game. I would consider them for Denver, but not in the first round here either, simply because of some of the other positional needs. Cornerback, I feel very, very set with what Denver has. Safety, I just don't love any of the value here. I think they could use someone long-term to replace Kareem Jackson. I just don't see it being the first-round pick unless somehow they end up in a situation where Kyle Hamilton's on the board for them. Then they'll run that pick up to the podium. However, with what's on the board here, they're not going to look at that safety position. Then, of course, we get to the quarterback spot. We've seen Matt Corral go off the board. He went 9th overall in this mock draft. And at 16, we have Malik Willis sitting on the board for us. I'm sitting here and I'm really, really considering pulling the trigger on that. I think Malik Willis is probably the way I'm leaning. I do want to, talk about the offensive tackle spot. I also want to go to the interior defensive line, talk about Jordan Davis. He's such a force in the middle of that Georgia Bulldog defense. His stats don't necessarily show everything that he's capable of doing. He can be very, very good in the run game. I think he'd be a phenomenal interior defensive lineman for the Denver Broncos there, who are going to be looking to improve that defensive line now with Von Miller out. But just with the value, the need for a quarterback long-term, Malik Willis is my selection. They pulled the trigger here. I think Malik Willis has extremely high upside in the NFL. Very dynamic, mobile quarterback, can throw the ball outside the numbers, has pretty good zip on his ball, and throws with accuracy too. That is a rare combination. Now, of course, the big criticism of him is who has he played in college, because he's playing for the Liberty Flames. This is going to be a big week for him. Gets to go up against Ole Miss in college football this week in week 10. So it'll be interesting to see how he does it in a matchup against a top 25 ranked team. I think we'll have a real indication of what he could be as a college quarterback after this matchup. 48 now, we're on the clock still here. Of course, you can see some of the top quarterbacks still available, but there's going to be some other nice players out here as well. Christian Harris is here, like I talked about. he could be a very nice linebacker upgrade for us. Very interesting that they have cornerback listed as such a high need. I know that they have some guys who are going to be expiring contracts and so on. However, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger this early on one at this point. Let's go ahead into that offensive tackle room. Jackson Kirkland still out here. Daniel Falele, who I like. They would consider some of those guys here. Interior offensive line, Zion Johnson from Boston College, very, very nice. Him and Alec Lindstrom together at Boston College have been very, very good, even without their starting quarterback this season. Interior defensive line has thinned out a little bit. This is one of these scenarios where you say, hey, maybe you take Jordan Davis, because the interior defensive line does really thin out quickly after he goes off the board. Looking at the edge spot, we got Kingsley Enagbari out here, and I do really want to grab an edge. I just don't think what they have currently now after Von Miller goes to LA that they have enough at that position. Stephen Weatherly, I thought he was a very nice rotational pass rusher addition. I was under the assumption that Von Miller was going to be there for the rest of the season when they made the move for him. I was wrong about that. Obviously, Weatherly now looks like a starting edge for them, and I don't love that. I don't think he's a starting edge level player, so I think that they really have to consider Kingsley Enagbari here, who is a very, very good player. But then linebacker, I mean, Christian Harris is just so good. The other thing, though, is I do like Henry To'oTo'o, so maybe we wait on the linebacker. You know, we got the two Crimson Tide ones right here, so maybe we just go back into that edge spot, go with Kingsley Enagbari, focus on the defensive line. We know how important that is to the Denver Broncos. We have another pick coming up here in the second round, so it's very possible that we could still make a very good selection a little bit later on in this round. Darian Kendrick goes off the board. I do like him. If he would have been there at 64, I would have really considered him as well. And look at that. Christian Harris did fall to us, actually. He's still on the board. That's going to be my selection. There's not a lot to consider here for me. Just the best player on the board at this point, and a very, very good upgrade into that middle of the defense. You're looking at bringing in Kingsley Enagbari along the defensive front. You bring in Christian Harris into that second level of that defense. Patrick Surtain looks like a star young cornerback in the NFL. They've got a lot of nice pieces. We also know what they have over the top at that safety spot. So they are very, very much set defensively. They just need to find certain ways to improve offensively. Of course, starting with Malik Willis in the first round was a very good starting point. Here we are now with our own third round pick, pick 80. They have the rare opportunity to have 5 picks in the top 3 rounds in this year's draft. And there's still a few nice players out here that I think really could help this team. Let's go to the running back position. I don't think that Denver's going to take one this early, but I think a guy I want to highlight for maybe a round 4 or 5 pick is Breece Hall. He was going to be a fringe top of the second round type of pick before this most recent year for Iowa State, the Cyclones. He has big play potential. I think would be a really nice compliment to Javonte Williams. Could bring a little bit of electricity next to some power there in Denver, especially with Melvin Gordon probably not being there long term. I don't think tight end's a real need for this team. Wide receiver, I feel good about what they have long term. This one, we come back to the offensive tackle spot. Another Boston College offensive lineman. They've got a very stout offensive line this year. A lot of guys who are going to get drafted probably on day 2. Interior offensive line, Jamari Salyer is pretty solid as well out of Georgia. Would consider him. However, they did spend the pick last year across the interior offensive line with the Wisconsin Whitewater kid. So I don't necessarily know if I'm going to go that direction fully yet at this point. There is a few other nice pieces out here. Jermaine Johnson's a guy who maybe jumps out to me. Isaiah Foskey as well, I would consider. Looking at the linebacker room, I just don't think that this is where you have to go at this point. Safety, we could look a little bit here, maybe try and develop that long-term option. Marquise Bell's an interesting name for me. I just am not fully in love with what I'm seeing here on the board, though, at this point, at some of those positions. So I might try and go best player available, Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. I know we've already addressed edge, but I think they could use another one. They could use a little bit more help just getting after the quarterback in general. We took Kingsley Enagbari. I'm going to come back, grab Boye Mafe out of the University of Minnesota. He could help them a lot. So getting after the quarterback, I think he has some upside in the run game as well. Could be a nice grab, 80th overall. U of M produces a lot of nice NFL players, especially as of late under head coach PJ Fleck there. Row the boat, U of M. If we have any Golden Gopher fans, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And now at 96, the final pick here for the Denver Broncos in this team mock draft. And there's still quite a bit of talent out here on the board. Kyler Gordon's interesting, part of that nice Washington secondary that also features Trent McDuffie, who's having a phenomenal season. Alec Lindstrom's here. I talked about him a little bit earlier on. Man, it's a little tough here. I think maybe I look at the running back spot one more time. Like I said, it hasn't really moved since we last talked about it. It just feels a little high to me based on where they drafted Javonte Williams this past season. Wide receiver, I just don't really see it as a need. They got Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. That's 4 really nice wide receivers. I'm not sure if they're all going to be staying long term. Within the next 2 years, maybe they'll cycle a couple of those guys out. Jeudy and Hamler most likely to stay. I think Sutton will probably stay as well. So I'm just not going to plan on wide receiver being a massive need. We've already addressed the defensive line quite a bit though as well. We got the quarterback. Maybe I just come back to the offensive tackle spot, go with Tyler Vrabel here out of Boston College. They have some question marks about the tackle spot, especially with some of the injuries that occurred over the offseason. They need to find a way to build that offensive line a little bit more, especially at that tackle spot. And I think this is an A-level draft for them, maybe an A- level draft just based off of that third round. I don't think the third round was capitalized as maybe as well as we could have. Maybe they'll look to be aggressive and move up 96 and 80 to go get another top player in the second round. But overall, looking at it here, Malik Willis, 16th overall, I think this is an A+ level pick. He could easily be a top 10, top 5 pick in this year's draft, depending on how everything shakes out by the end of the season. Getting him at 16, A+ level pick. Kingsley Enagbare, I'm going to give this an A here. I think he's a phenomenal fit into Denver, can help you in the run and pass game at that edge position. Christian Harris, again, another A-level pick just based off the value. You could see him go maybe at the end of the first round, depending on if there's a team that's really linebacker needy in that area. He goes to a 64th overall. I think that's just extremely good value. And then we look at Boye Mafe here, who I think has some long-term upside. Doesn't quite have all the traits that Kingsley Enagbare does, but you're looking at addressing the edge spot by bringing in 2 guys. You get maybe a little bit better of chances of one of those guys really panning out. And then Tyler Vrabel, I think, has long-term upside to be a starting right tackle in the NFL, which is a real need for the Denver Broncos at this point, looking for one other tackle. He's at least going to be a swing tackle on day 1 of his NFL career. Gives you some depth there with pick 96. I like that a lot for the Denver Broncos. They've done such a good job building up pieces of that offensive line. I think this is the one that caps it all off. Broncos fans, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Also, subscribe if you're new to Utility Sports. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Don't forget about the jersey giveaway, and let me know what team you'd like to see next for our next NFL team mock draft. Again, thanks guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.